Okay, wonderful. So, wow, this is amazing. We have a very international crowd gathering. We have someone in Romania, India, Mexico. We have Boston, New York City, Vermont. Welcome. Someone's here from Minnesota. Can't tell your first name there. Welcome, Lauren Rose in Paris. Welcome, Ulrike in Berlin. Meredith in Georgia. Hi, Meredith. Great to see you here. Welcome, Rashida in South Florida. Swanika in Holland. Welcome, Sonia in Ireland. Welcome, Rashida also from Morocco. Amazing. Welcome, Celine in Southwest Colorado. Welcome, Skydancer in Switzerland. Marianne in Denmark. Wow, so wonderful to see you all here. Welcome, Catherine in Santa Fe. Elise in California. Irene in New York. Avis in Wisconsin. Okay, wow, wonderful. Welcome, everybody. Well, we are just delighted to be here with you today. I am Joselyn Starfeather, and I am here with Danielle Escalante and Betty Artes, and you'll get to meet them and learn a lot more about their work very soon. And the amazing place that Danielle and Betty have in Taos, New Mexico. And I know if you join this call, you are interested in the magic of Taos and the absolute incredible, magnificent mountains there and the beauty and the portal aspect of the land there. Such a powerful place. And so I'm just going to keep letting everybody in as people are joining. So I would love to begin by introducing Danielle and Betty because I want you all to meet them. Danielle and Betty are such wonderful, amazing people. And so I will welcome them in, introduce you to them, and I'll share just a little bit about my journey and how I originally met Danielle and Betty, which is a very fascinating story. And so let me go ahead and keep that pin in. So let me read their bios, but I want you guys to see Danielle and Betty. So before I read your bios, Danielle, could you unmute and say hi? And Betty, can you unmute and say hi? And then everybody will get to see you.
Hi there.
Welcome.
Hello, I'm Betty.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you both. So I'm going to share a little bit more about both of you and your background and your work. All right, so everyone, Danielle Escalante is a 75-year-old Chicano group facilitator and trainer who has actively promoted social justice for much of his life. Danielle grew up in Berkeley, California, and attended UC Berkeley during the turbulent 60s. In the 70s, he was trained as a substance abuse counselor and certified as a group counselor by the state of Colorado. He has also received group facilitation training from the Institute of Cultural Affairs in Denver, Colorado. And Danielle has lived in Taos since 1971. Danielle has provided consultation, group facilitation, and inclusiveness training for numerous municipalities, nonprofit organizations, schools, and grassroots groups throughout Colorado and in Taos, New Mexico. Working collaboratively with each group, he creates workshops designed to meet the unique needs of these groups. Danielle's professional work experience includes substance abuse counselor, coordinator for many youth programs, diversity coordinator for the Boulder County AIDS Project, trainer for the Colorado Schools Meditation Project, and community organizer for the Boulder County Community Action Programs. And Danielle, you've just done so much incredible work in so many different areas. So this is just amazing. And Danielle has helped organize multicultural community events and projects. He has helped to organize 2 Taos healing and reconciliation events in Taos, which brought primarily Native healers from around the world to conduct healing events at Casa Taos Retreat and Training Center and in the Taos community. And Danielle founded and currently co-directs the Casa Taos Retreat and Training Center in Taos, New Mexico. He and his partner, Betty, provide a facility for people from around the world who seek to learn and grow and to connect or reconnect with themselves, each other, Mother Earth, and Spirit. So that's a little background about Danielle, and you'll meet him even more as he is sharing here soon. And then I want to introduce you to Betty. So the best way to describe Betty Artes is Betty of all trades. I love that, Betty. That's really cute. As a bilingual middle school teacher in Brooklyn, New York, she learned how to handle almost any circumstance or situation. Moving to Boulder, Colorado in 1984 brought out the adventurous and entrepreneurial spirit she inherited from her parents, who in 1962, in the middle of the Cuban Missile Crisis and the Bay of Pigs, picked up and moved the family from Buenos Aires, Argentina, to New York City. In Boulder, Betty raised 2 sons while she was a realtor, educating first-time homebuyers and many recent immigrants. Teaching folks to reach their goals is what makes her tick. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, she collaborated with now longtime business partner Ernesto Alvarez and opened Casa Alvarez restaurant in 1994. This restaurant won accolades from the public and critics and was named a Boulder institution. Now, Betty, along with her adult sons, continue to grow the company, educating folks on the importance of clean food and challenging the retailers to support local small businesses. In 2012, Betty began to split her time between Colorado and New Mexico as co-founder of Casa Taos Retreat and Training Center with her life partner, Danielle Escalante. Casa Taos fulfilled a dream of Danielle's to provide a safe place for social and environmental activists to recharge, grow, learn, and connect with themselves, others, spirit, and the earth. At Casa Taos, Betty is able to continue feeding folks clean, delicious food filled with love. And the food that she creates is absolutely amazing. And you can taste all of the love that goes into it. And so Betty and Danielle live and work at Casa Taos, hosting families and groups and growing food using permaculture practices. So you can tell from all I have shared here that Betty and Danielle are just absolutely amazing human beings and very heart-based, very connected with the earth. And so I just want to tell you before we go to their shares, and they have a lot to share with you today, a little bit about how I came to meet them and how I came to go to Taos the first time. And I think some of you may have heard this story, some of you may not, but this is a piece of my spiritual awakening story. So when I was going through my initial spiritual awakening, I started a shamanic journeying practice. And in this practice, I would listen to a drum beat and, lay down and close my eyes and see where my guides would take me. And there came to a point, this was around 2013 and 2014, I would say, that every time I went into the shamanic journeying space, my guide, which was the white horse, would take me to this mountain, this snow-capped mountain, and there were scraggly bushes all around, and there was water flowing somewhere near the base of the mountain. And I would just stand there and stare up at this mountain. I mean, this was like maybe 40, 50 journeys in a row. And I would just stand there and stare up at this very impressive mountain and feeling the energy of it, but not knowing what was trying to be communicated to me. And so finally one day, I mean, after many, 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 many journeys like this, where I would just stand in the presence of the mountain, I asked the mountain, "What would you like me to do?" And the mountain said, "You need to go to New Mexico." It was very clear. It was like this clear voice. You need to go to New Mexico. Now, at the time, I had little tiny kids. I was not especially fond of getting on a plane. And I had no plans to go to New Mexico, but coincidentally, I had just recently started working with the Pachamama Alliance. I was volunteering as a blogger for the Pachamama Alliance and writing articles for them. Now, the Pachamama Alliance is an amazing organization based in San Francisco, California, that is doing work to support Indigenous people especially in South America, in holding strong in their ancestral territories, not letting the oil companies come in. And they're doing a lot of amazing work all around the world to help us, lean into our spiritual awakening, reconnect with the earth, reconnect with Indigenous ways of being and living. So this amazing organization, the Pachamama Alliance, was coincidentally hosting a trip to New Mexico. And so all of this was coming into my field at the same time. So although I was pretty afraid to leave my kids and not feeling really comfortable getting on a plane, I signed up for this trip. So this was a really big thing in my life. This was a really big shift of, something very outside of the realm of what I had ever planned to do. And I got on the plane, went to New Mexico. And as the group of us, we were in, some kind of like maybe an SUV vehicle. The whole group, we were driving from Albuquerque to Taos. And on that road, you come around a bend where suddenly you can see the Sangre de Cristo Mountains as you're approaching Taos. We came around that bend. Now you got to keep in mind, I expected that New Mexico was going to be like flat with just a lot of cactuses everywhere because I knew it was the desert. Okay. I did not know there were mountains in New Mexico when I first went there. And so we came around this bend and I saw the mountains and I saw that this was the mountain that had been talking to me. This is the mountain that had been coming to me in my shamanic journeys. And it all really hit me in that moment as we were driving down the road toward Taos. We came around the bend and there was the mountain. And I realized, I mean, that moment just like shattered my understanding of reality and what is possible in the world, what is possible in life, because I now, in that split second, I understood that this mountain was truly communicating with me and had called me there from 2,000 miles away to go and be in this particular place. And I understood it was extremely important that I had said yes and that I was coming to be in that particular place. So we continue on down the road, and as it turns out, where we were going was to Casa Taos, because that's where we were going to be staying for the week. And we were going to be learning so much from Pat McCabe, Woman Stand Shining, an amazing Dene Indigenous elder who is just doing so much beautiful work in the world. And so we drove up to Casa Taos and went inside. And as soon as I was inside of this place and I was saying hi to Danielle and Betty for the very first time, this was in 2016, I felt like this was home. Right. I felt like this was home. And from their place, as you look out the back, if you're standing in the backyard or standing on the back patio, she is there. The mountain is there. And so the whole week that we were there, we did all kinds of different things, around Taos, and always from everywhere that we went, this beautiful mountain was watching over us. And I was just kind of constantly in communication with her the whole time that we were there. So that's the beginning of the story. And then I've been to Taos and stayed at Casa Taos many times since then. And in fact, I brought my kids and my mom to Taos just this past June, and we stayed at Casa Taos. So my mom and my kids have gotten to know Danielle and Betty and experienced the amazing food that they make and the beauty of Casa Taos and all that Taos, New Mexico has to offer. And so I want to share Casa Taos with all of you. And Danielle and Betty will tell you a lot more about their retreat center, about what is possible, about the kind of groups that they've, hosted in the past. I just want to share with you quickly before we go to them this image. This was a photo I just took this past June of the beautiful Sangre de Cristo Mountains, watching over Taos Valley here. And this is the mountain that was speaking to me. If you can see my cursor, hopefully you can. It's so interesting because always in the journey, this mountain was snow-capped. And what's really, fascinating about this mountain is that she is bald on the top. So even when there's not any snow, there's still that same look of a little bit of like a snow-capped mountain. And that's how I knew that it was the same one. So just incredible. You can see the power of the land here. You can see the power of these amazing Sangre de Cristo mountains. And so if you're feeling called to this place, you're in the right place. You're going to learn a lot more about Casa So I will, with that, turn it over to Danielle and Betty, and can't wait to hear what you all have to share with everyone today.
Thank you, Jocelyn. What a beautiful story. And, I've heard sort of an abbreviated version of it, but hearing the whole thing, um, what it means to me is that you really got the place. You really understand where we're located and what our intention was. We were hoping to create a place where people could come and connect or reconnect with themselves, with each other, with the land, with spirit. And it sounds like that's exactly the process you went through. And the whole idea of sharing the story really fits in well with what we do and how we do things around here. Sharing stories is a way for people to connect with each other, to make that human connection. And so we really encourage people who come here to share their stories, and we typically share our stories with them. What I would like to share with you all now is the story of how Casa Taos came to be. I lived in Colorado for many years. That's where I met Betty. And while I was there, I was conducting group facilitations and workshops, primarily around leadership development. But we were always looking for a good place to have a retreat. And it was very difficult to find a good place. Something was really conducive, something that was close to the land, not too close to other people, that had some privacy, but not too far away from the world. And one day when Betty and I were doing a road trip here to Taos, she asked me, well, had you ever considered moving back to Taos? And I said, no, I said goodbye to Taos a while back. I had lived here before, and it was really hard to get a foothold in Taos. There's not many jobs. And so I had to say goodbye to Taos. But when I told her that, she said, well, I haven't said goodbye to Taos. So I said, well, what do you have in mind? And she said, well, what if we got a little casita and we just moved there and had an adobe house with a garden? And that really appealed to me for sure. And then as we talked about it more, the idea grew. We said, well, how can we share the experience of Taos? I'm not sure if you're still there, Jocelyn, but you suddenly disappeared.
Oh, I'm still here. Don't worry.
Okay, good. And so the idea grew from moving to Taos into a little casita to, well, what if we got a bigger place? And we were able to use it as a retreat center for people. Well, then we decided to go to Mexico, and we were spending time at Olbosch, which is a little island in southern Mexico. And we were floating in the water every day for several days. And during that time, we dreamt up the idea of Casa Taos. And when we came back, we began working on it, began looking at different properties in the area. And that took almost 3 years for us to find a place that met all the requirements. We had created a long list of things that we were looking for. And at the top of the list was water. We needed a place where there was water. And so we really lucked out. We found a place that has 2 acequias, which are irrigation ditches, one of which we have water rights to, so we can use that water to irrigate the stuff we grow. And then right on the other side of our property fence line is a river, the Rio Chiquito. It's a very small river, obviously. That's what Rio Chiquito means. And with beaver dams. And when I saw this place, Betty wasn't with me when I first saw it. I called her and I said, I think we found our place after 3 years of looking. And she said, well, make an offer. I said, well, you haven't seen it yet. And she said, well, we've looked at so many properties. You know what we're looking for. So we offered something, and the people took it, and we ended up getting Casa Taos. I put the word out right away on Facebook that we had found our place and we needed some help. And the first message I sent out was kind of tongue in cheek. But I said, you know, we're building a deck. Does anybody feel like screwing? Because we had to screw the boards down. And two people responded. And this one woman, Cheryl Clark, uh, and her good friend Vicky came here, and they helped to get Casa Taos started. And that started a kind of like a chain reaction. People started contributing things like towels and dishes and sheets and whatever it was that we needed here, which we needed a lot. Um, Betty was closing her restaurant up in Colorado, so we got a lot of restaurant equipment. But other people were contributing lots of things to make Casa Taos a reality. So it was a real kind of a community effort to get this going. And a lot of people had said in one way or another, you know, if you build it, then we will come. And sure enough, we got the word out that we were offering this place as a retreat and training center. And we began to host groups. At first, they were local groups, and then we started getting people from around the world. Um, so that's kind of the story of how Casa Taos was started. Um, it's not only a retreat and training center, it's also our home. We live here. And so with that, I think Betty has some descriptions of what it is that we do here and what it looks like. I think you may be muted.
Yeah, I'm not muted now. Hello. Well, I think Danielle told the whole story. um, I'll take it from what's going on now, what's happening now. We continue to host groups. Our experience with the pandemic was rather odd, where everything was shut down. So it was just Danielle and I shuffling around in this beautiful space, and we were felt very blessed that we got to spend those couple of years really in this magical place. But it does every morning. It feels magical. And when we show you the little presentation we have, you'll get to see a little bit for yourselves. But it's really about being there, about experiencing the place. Every season is magical. It's just a place that attracts good things. And where a lot of experiences like Joselyn's really happen. They've happened to me. I think it brought us, Danielle and I, together even more there. And to do this kind of work, I was a teacher by education and in the classroom. But I feel like that has expanded, that teaching and educating has expanded at Casa Taos with the groups, with the young people and the older people. We've had groups where have multi-generational, and that has been a beautiful experience. My joy is feeding everybody. I call it my love language. And really seeing the joy that it brings and the health and the vitality that eating good food prepared properly and enjoyed really brings. So that is how I enjoy sharing Casa Taos and my love for food. Our love for food, because Danielle's a pretty darn good cook too. So yeah, we totally look forward to meeting new people, sharing experiences. Um, and Jocelyn, if you're ready, we can kind of explain this in pictures.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I will bring that video up here to share. And I just wanted to mention, just to emphasize some of what Danielle and Betty are saying, and something I meant to say as part of my share was all the times that I've been there in Taos, at Casa Taos, with these different groups throughout the years. The magic that happens in this place is just incredible. You know, it's like all of these different aspects are working together. It's the land, the mountains, it's the water there. And then it's this nourishment that we receive at Casa Taos through the amazing organic food. And Danielle and Betty are so aware of the different, like, we need gluten-free, we need meat-free, we need dairy-free, you know, very, very accommodating. And they themselves are, you know, really understand what, you know, that why people need these different food requirements. And the food is just so nourishing and replenishing. So every time I've been there, I've felt so filled up and able to receive all that the place has to
Mhm.
offer. So just wanted to emphasize that for everyone. So here's the video, and I don't know if you want to say
Yeah.
anything more about that. Betty,
Well,
before I start the
let it speak for itself as I narrate through the pictures.
Yeah,
And you
perfect.
can go ahead anytime.
Okay, I'll press play now.
Welcome to Casa Taos Retreat and Training Center, located in northern New Mexico, the land of enchantment, where every season is magical. Nestled in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, where families and groups gather to connect with themselves, with others, with spirit and the earth. People come to Casa Taos from all walks of life and from many different places. They are healers, social activists, and leaders in training, leaving their lasting contributions at Casa Taos to inspire future generations. They work in community and build our teepees, cook together, and commune. And that's our kitchen where the magic happens. And they also just have fun. Learning skills for health and well-being, and Chaco joins in. We encourage cooking and eating in community and offer different options for dining. And when duty calls, there's Joselyn right there. When duty calls, we have full Wi-Fi capabilities. We also offer different options for sleeping, bunk beds, day beds, futons, and a selection of 12 hammocks. Everything thrives at Casa Taos. Through our permaculture-driven efforts, we're growing an abundance of fruits and vegetables, bees, healing herbs that we use in our daily cooking. I love that heart-shaped potato. We create healthy meals and tasty meals, keeping dietary needs top of mind, intentionally selecting local, fresh ingredients. We honor vegan, vegetarian, and food allergies whenever it's brought to our attention. We enjoy educating young and old. And our retreat center family is made up of our two ducks, Kitty, Kefi, Missy, Chaco, and yours truly. We look forward to connecting with you, and Missy is waiting for you. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Betty.
So a lot of times when people call and express an interest in staying here, one of the questions they ask is, how many people can you accommodate? And we tell them that, well, it depends. If people want to camp out, we've had up to, I think, 22 people here. That was the permaculture certification class that was here for 2 weeks. But a good size is between 10 and 14 people. And that's mainly because we can sit around the dining tables that we have. We can also put tables together and accommodate more people. But we like to sit in circles as much as possible. It kind of levels the playing field, and just the energy is good. And everybody can see each other and listen to each other easier than they can if they're sitting at a square or a rectangular table. So that many people works best for what we have set up here. We also have the tent out in the front and a greenhouse that we're building right now. And then in the back, we have the teepee, which people can sleep in if they like. More often than not, people use it for sharing circles, listening circles. And then we have a large fire pit. And in that, around that fire pit, we've had lots of stories told. I remember one time there was a family here. It was actually a Black family from East Denver. And they're all sitting around a fire, and they weren't really used to being outdoors that much, camping out and stuff. And so we're sharing stories around the fire at night. And all of a sudden, the coyotes started to make their noises. And I don't know if a lot of you have heard coyotes, but it can be a little bit intimidating. It sounds like there's a million of them, even though there may be only 2 or 3. Well, as soon as they started to shriek and everything, the people stood up and said, okay, time to go, time to leave. And I said, no, wait a minute. I can make them stop. And because I had done this before. So all I said was, get out of here, get out of here. And the coyotes stopped howling, shrieking. And so I got the reputation of being a coyote whisperer, which I really am not. But anyway, so that fire pit has hosted people who sit in circles. We had an Asian Pacific Development Center group, which consisted of people from different Asian countries, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and they had all lived in refugee camps. And many of them had been in refugee camps for years. And so they had experienced things that most of us only read about or see on the news. When they got here, they started laughing. They felt so comfortable and at ease with the place. And some of them had told us, this reminds us of where we came from. Because often if you ask them, well, where did you come from? They would say the jungle, because that's what they were used to. So on this particular night, we were sitting around the fire, and they were sharing stories from their cultures, traditional stories and experiences that they've had. And it was the most amazing thing. And I think Joselyn touched on this when she was talking about Casa Taos, about the magic of the place, which really goes way, way beyond me and Betty. There's just something about the energy of this place that brings out a sense of security and safety and peace. So they were sharing their stories, and it was amazing. And then the night before they left, an incredible experience happened. And Betty, you might want to chime in here, but what started it off was they said, well, we want to honor you. And so they sat us in front of our fireplace here in the living room, and they all sat around. There was about 18 of them, I guess, little kids all the way up to grandparents. And these little girls said, we want to sing a song in our language. And so they sang a song, and it was very beautiful. And then one of the little girls said, when they were done, I want to tell you what we're saying with this song. what we're saying with the song is that it's a song of appreciation. We appreciate this place. We appreciate you. And we want you to know that even after we leave, our spirits will be here forever. And that is the kind of experience that happens here at Casa Taos and continues to happen at Casa Taos. They have returned several times over the years because they feel safe here and comfortable. And I don't know, Betty, if you wanted to add anything more about any of the groups that have come or anything more about the Asia Pacific group.
Well, every group has been amazing. I get so excited when we have groups come. It keeps us elders young, because most of them are younger than us, but also the hope that we see and the vision that we see that young people have, in that we know that we are stewarding the land for them, and they will continue the work. This group, the Asian Pacific group, specifically, in addition to singing us songs, they also, one by one, came up to us. And their tradition, I believe it was in Laos, is to take a piece of yarn and make a little bracelet around the person that they are greeting. And as they tie the knot of the yarn, they give you their good wishes and their blessing. And so they, one by one, did that for Danielle, for myself, and for Chaco, because Chaco was heading into knee surgery after they were leaving, and they wanted to give their blessing to him as well. So we have been truly blessed by so many, and their amazing energy continues to live, like the little girl sang at Casa Taos. It is just energizing and beautiful. So yeah, and magical, definitely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are so many stories that we have accumulated over the years, the experiences that we've had here, and we could be here for a couple of days probably, but we want to keep it short. We want to make sure this ends on time. If people are beginning to develop questions, we'd ask that you go ahead and put them in the chat. Or if you really have a burning question and you want to raise your hand, then we'll just stop and answer that question. I guess the couple other things I want to add around the people that come here. I got a call from somebody based in California, and she wondered if we could host a healing and retreat event here that would last for several days. And it was the most amazing thing. She invited people, mainly indigenous women from around the world, Canada, New Zealand, all over, to come here and stay and to conduct workshops, healing workshops for people, and then also to conduct workshops in the community. And it was the most amazing experience. We got to meet healers. And can you imagine sitting around a dinner table with a dozen healers from around the world? It's incredible. And other ones include the most recent one, which really I thought was really important. Most of the groups that come here consist of mostly women. And it's like women seem to understand the importance of doing this kind of work more than men. But this last group that came was just men. And it was a healing group, and they were executive directors from different Latino and Chicano programs in Colorado. It was a group of about, I don't know, 8 or 10 men, maybe 10 or 12. And their whole purpose for coming here was to talk about healing and what they need to do as men to help support making change in the world. And they did it primarily through holding sweat lodge. So we constructed a sweat lodge for them and for another group, but they held their sweat lodge and they did ceremonies, and I was so grateful, and I was really glad to see that men were willing to come together and deal with healing from trauma and looking at how trauma has affected our relationships and the way we do our work, and how it can hold us back or slow us down if we do not deal with the trauma and heal from the trauma. So I was so glad to see these men come, and they want to make it an annual thing. Hopefully we'll have other men's group come too. So those are just some examples of who comes here and how they use the place. I would be very interested in knowing from you, what is your need? You know, what do you need? What do you want out of a place? We are somewhat adaptable here. You know, we can arrange things and rearrange things for any group that comes. We just need to know what is the need. So with that, I think, Jocelyn, we were going to talk about next steps before we move on to questions and answers.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And so thank you so much, Danielle and Betty, for all that you've shared here today. It's so inspiring to hear. And I think everybody you can hear from these stories the heart-centeredness of this place and of Danielle and Betty and all that they're caretaking here, and the love that they put into all that they do at Casa Taos. So that's the main thing that makes this place so special, you know, that and being in the magical portal that Taos, New Mexico is. So, you know, if you're feeling moved by this, if you would like to learn more about possibly having a retreat at Casa Taos, and or maybe visiting Casa Taos yourself, definitely reach out to Danielle and Betty. And so, Danielle and Betty, what are the best ways to reach you? And maybe some people might prefer phone, or some might prefer to schedule, you know, a Zoom call with you. So what do you recommend for people to get in touch?
Well, phone could probably be the most immediate way we can answer any questions that you have, and talk about scheduling. You can also reach us by email. We can do texting, but texting for me is a little more challenging because I don't have a good record of what's been communicated. So either a phone call or a text, or not text, email. Of course, there's always Zoom, and we're happy to do that. And I was thinking, you know, if somebody wants to get in touch with us and learn more about the place and see more of the rooms and all that, and we did a Zoom, we could carry the phone around, or do FaceTime and carry the phone around so you could actually see the beds and the sunroom. We haven't really talked about the sunroom. That's one of the most amazing spots in the house, I think. But anyway, that's how people can get in touch with us. And should I put our contact information in chat, or do you think you already have it?
Yeah, if you can put it in the chat for those who are on live, and then I will also post it in the email, you know, for people who will be watching this later as a recording. And that way everybody can easily find it. That would be great.
And I just wanted to add that I just saw a comment about transportation. The Taos Airport now, they have Taos Air that flies from Taos to Denver and Taos to Los Angeles.
Hmm.
So if people want to make connections in Denver or Los Angeles, and that would bring them right to the Taos Airport, which is about a 30-minute drive from there to Casa Taos. Otherwise, it's Albuquerque or Santa Fe. But that's a nice little convenience now that has been added.
Yeah, that's really great. I've always flown into Albuquerque, and then it's not too bad of a drive. It's about a 2-hour drive, and it's just a beautiful drive from Albuquerque up to Taos.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty easy way to do it as well. But yeah, that's amazing. I didn't know there was a Taos airport now, Betty. That's great. Okay, so Danielle has put the contact info, phone number, and email and the website link all in the chat there, everybody. So you can see that if you're on live, and I will put that info. If you're watching this as a recording, I will put that info in the email that goes out so you can find it in the email. And yeah, definitely reach out. And I know Danielle and Betty are very open to answering your questions, talking to you about, what kind of group you want to bring and if that would be a match for the place. Is there anything else you want to say about that, Danielle and Betty, about, your conversations you normally have with people before they book their retreat?
I don't think so. For me, having people contact us directly, we can answer all the questions. There are a lot of details that people often ask about, like, are there any private rooms and how many bathrooms do you have, all that. Even though that kind of information is on the website, it's nice to be able to connect person to person. I noticed that somebody needed to leave, and I'm thinking if anybody else needs to leave, be sure to put your question into the chat so that we can get to it. And Joselyn, I think you said this was going to be recorded so that people could review it later.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. If you do need to go and you want to put a question in the chat, we will answer it in the recording. So you can come back to it. So we do have a question. A couple of people asked, when did you start Casa Taos? Or the other question was, how many years have you been running Casa Taos? So probably a similar answer there.
You want to answer that one, Betty?
We moved to Casa Taos in 2012. And I want to say maybe about in 2014 is when we started hosting groups. We had quite a bit of work to do, but so it's been about 10 years that we've been hosting groups. So quite a while, yeah. You want to add anything else, Danielle?
No, that's the answer.
I will share, because I find this so interesting, the Pachamama Alliance trip that I, was on when I first went there in 2016. This was an idea that was conceived by David Tucker, who worked for the Pachamama Alliance. And he had for many years, I think for maybe almost 20 years at that point, had been leading tours with the Pachamama Alliance down to the Amazon rainforest, bringing people into the rainforest to meet with the indigenous people there and to really connect with the land and the rainforest. And he started getting messages that we need to have these same journeys, but in the north. And one of the places that he was, synchronistically guided to was to Taos. And there he connected with Pat McCabe, Woman Stand Shining, and with Danielle and Betty, Casa Taos. And so those amazing retreats were held at Casa Taos from 2016 to 2019 and were stopped by COVID, unfortunately. But those were just such an incredible experience. And it was such I don't know, it just seemed like such a divine alignment of forces that were bringing people to these Pachamama Alliance journeys to the north. Really beautiful. Rashida said, what is your connection to Pachamama Foundation? I volunteered to organize a Pachamama event in Florida to raise funds. I might have just answered that question. Is there do you want to say anything else about that, Danielle and Betty, your connection to the Pachamama Alliance?
I've contacted Pachamama Alliance, I guess it was towards the end of last year, and asked them if they were interested in returning. They said they had gone through some, internal staff changes, and they were going to get back to me. So we're just kind of on hold right now. We don't, since David's death, our primary contact is gone. And so we don't have an ongoing relationship with Pachamama Alliance at this point.
Yeah.
Now we have a relationship with Joselyn, and we have a relationship with Pat McCabe, who led the Pachamama retreats while the retreats were held here. Pat McCabe is, as Joselyn said, a Dene woman who lives in Taos, and her daughter and her son are also amazing people. Which kind of brings up something. When groups come here, they often are curious about the cultures of the area. And we think it's really important that when people come here, that they do have an understanding about the cultures of the area, the history of the area. There's been a lot of colonization and gentrification that's happened here. It's been kind of a bloody history in this area. And the people that we know at the Pueblo, which is not a reservation, it's actually a place where the native people who live here have lived forever. This is where they've come from. We've developed relationships with them. And so when groups come, we oftentimes invite people from the Pueblo to come and talk about history from that perspective, from the native perspective. We think is really important. And we also have brought in community activists and other healers to come and work with the groups that are here. So we have an amazing network of local people who are often called upon by the groups who visit to help them with the work that they do here. As a facilitator, group facilitator, I can also offer to facilitate dialogues or listening circles if needed. Most of the time, people will bring their own facilitators, their own trainers, their own leaders, and that's fine. I'm happy with helping Betty cook and making sure everybody has towels and sheets and all that. But if needed, we can offer that support to you as well, the group facilitation. Our relationship with the Pueblo is really interesting. I don't know if any of you know about the Pueblo here. It's a very kind of a closed community in many ways. They have their own government, they have their own school, they have their own traditional ways. And most people who come to Taos don't know much about the culture from the people who live there. And we've been fortunate enough to develop friendships with people at the Pueblo, and have become very close with some people, especially one family in particular. And you saw pictures of Chasque when he was like, 4 or 5 years old, driving the golf cart. Now he's about to go into Kiva, which is going to be a year-long process of initiating him into adulthood, manhood. But we've done things like, we've helped them build their tree houses at their house. And I was on a powwow organizing committee for 2 years. And for a while, I didn't say anything because I was the only non-Pueblo person there. And I just waited. And so after several meetings, the leader of the group, Richard, said, "Mr. Escalante, we see you as an elder in the outside community. What do you have to say?" So I gave him my opinion, and that gave me permission to speak in that circle. And after a while, I asked them if they had ever considered having their powwow, which is an annual powwow, really big one, become waste-free. And they said, "Oh yeah, we tried to recycle one time, that didn't work." I said, "Well, this is a little more involved. I mean, what we could do is the first year we can recycle, we can collect glass and paper and cans, and we can send them to the recycling center and they can deal with it. The second year, we can ask the vendors to use only utensils that are biodegradable, forks and spoons made of corn, for example. The third year, we can collect compost and share it with people at the Pueblo who have their gardens and who need compost. And so that was our plan before the pandemic hit. We only got to do 1 year. But all this to say is that when groups come here, we try to help them understand more about the Pueblo and the people at the Pueblo in ways that are appropriate, not culturally appropriating, but in ways that are respectful. So that's another thing I think I forgot to mention earlier is our relationship with the Pueblo.
Yeah, I think that's so important, Danielle. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think you at Casa Taos, you're so committed to the environment, to to reducing your impact on the environment, and then this amazing relationship that you do have with the leaders in the area and the indigenous people in the area is just so wonderful. Um, you guys are doing amazing things there, truly.
We feel the same way about you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, well, does anybody have any other questions? Anybody want to raise your hand and comment or ask a question? Feel free. We have a nice community gathering here where we can see each other, so you're welcome to do that if you want. Dawn says, it would be of a great challenge to facilitate groups of different Indigenous cultures. We are so diverse. Thank you for taking on the challenge. Thank you all. Yeah, that's beautiful, Dawn. Okay, well, I don't see any more questions here. Last call for questions, everybody. Get your question in now if you want to ask. And you may just want to have your own conversation with Danielle and Betty and, talk about your own initiatives or your own retreat that you're thinking of creating. I just want to say I cannot recommend Casa Taos highly enough. It really does just feel like home there. It feels so safe. It's such a wonderful place to be able to come back to every day and meanwhile have these beautiful healing experiences or beautiful nature connection experiences on the land and to eat the amazing organic holistic food that Danielle and Betty are providing, and Betty with all of her years of knowledge about restaurant business and how to really make healthy food and how to source healthy food. Um, it's just such a wonderful combination. So it's like words can't fully express all that you receive there at Casa Taos, but I invite you all to come and find out for yourselves. I know my girls and I and my mom were there in June. And my girls talk about Casa Taos and Danielle and Betty all the time. Just the other day, my little daughter Lily said, I wish I could have some of those breakfast burritos that Betty made. And your dogs, Chaco was always there ever since 2016 when I started going. And I just love Chaco. Oh my goodness. And now you have Missy and Keffy and Kitty, and the animals there are as much a part of the experience, as far as feeling at home. And the dogs are always looking out for everybody, making sure everybody's okay, making sure everybody's accounted for. They greet us with just like hugs when we get back from anywhere. It's just amazing. So, and my kids loved the hammocks. You have 12 hammocks there, is that right? So
Yes.
my kids, when we were there for 5 days in June, they eventually decided they didn't want to go anywhere. They just wanted to hang out in Hammock Town all day because they loved the hammocks so much. Even though there was all these cool things to see. They called it Hammock Town in the backyard where there's like a square section of 4 hammocks coming together, and they just hung out there for hours. And I was thinking, this is what I need to do in my life. I need to spend more time in Hammock Town and just relax a little bit. So it's
Yeah.
good for that too.
That was actually the first improvement that we made when we moved here. We put up a hammock, and since then we've been collecting hammocks and putting all around, because what I noticed in my work in the community is that activists rarely take time to just pause, relax, rest, recuperate. And I've seen how it affects people's work. You know, I think people begin to feel burnt out, or it gets in the way of relationships. So we wanted to offer plenty of hammocks so that people could try to get into the habit of just stopping and breathing, relaxing. You know, Chaco has been here almost since the beginning. We had another dog here for the first year, and she made it through 4 seasons, but she was a little dog, and the coyotes got her finally.
No.
And we planted, well, there was a pine tree growing here in the front that was just tall enough that I could reach the top to put a little decoration on it. And we buried her at the base of that tree. And now that tree is about, what, 40 feet tall? It's huge. So now it continues to live here. Then we got Chaco. And Chaco is an amazing dog, as you know. And people have said, well, we want to come back. And I go, yeah, you should. And they go, to visit Chaco. And I go, well, wait a minute. But one group, and I think it may have been your group, gave him a nickname.
Here's Chaco. I'm just putting Chaco up on the screen for a moment. He's so wonderful.
They gave him a nickname. They named him Medicine Dog, you know, MD, Dr. Chaco. So yeah, there's a lot of good energy here, and we've had so many great groups, Pachamama, the Asian Pacific group, youth groups and all that, who come here and then they leave their energy. They leave good energy here. And so when people come, they go, wow, it feels good here. And we go, well, yeah, there's a reason. There've been a lot of people that have contributed to this place. And I guess I also just want to add, we have not advertised. It's been word of mouth. We do have a website. And when people are curious, I always tell them, you know, check out the website. It'll tell you about the place, the cost, everything. And then if you're interested, get back to us. But we haven't put the word out open to the public that we exist. When you, Joselyn, said, you know, I have a network of people who are committed to helping to heal the earth and related topics, we thought, well, yeah, let's get the word out to that group, because these are the kind of people that we want to have here. We've never tried to convince people to come here or to sell the idea to anybody. People contact us. So I hope that this little presentation that we've done hasn't come across as some kind of a sales pitch or something, because that's not how we have been doing business. But I really did like that little presentation Betty put together yesterday. And the narration of it, it just seems to fit so well with the photos. So that's all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like this is a beautiful connection call, weaving the threads and, you know, connecting those who are here doing this amazing visionary change maker work together. So it's been so beautiful to share with you both in this way, Danielle and Betty, and everybody here and everybody that will watch this as a recording too, who couldn't be on live with us. It's just been delightful. So thank you all for being here. And lots of thank you notes in the chat to you, Danielle and Betty. So glad that we can all gather like this. It's so fun. All around the world, you know, we can come together and be here like-minded, like-hearted people and raise each other up, inspire one another. It's really wonderful. Is there any last thing that either of you wanted to say, Betty or Danielle, before we close here?
Well, I'm filled with gratitude for you, Joselyn, for your community and the work that you're doing. That's what keeps us going. And I really appreciate the time that folks have spent, because time is very valuable these days. I think that our existence depends on this kind of thing, that we really share our love for the earth, for one, who nourishes us. So I really am very grateful for the opportunity to share what we're doing. Thank you.
Yes, wonderful.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Betty said. Thank you, Jocelyn. I think we were supposed to meet. It
That
seems
seems
right
clear. Yes.
in so many ways. And look forward to a long friendship with you. And hopefully we'll get to meet some of the other people on this call.
Ah, yes, and the dogs agree.
Mm,
Heard that bark.
Missy wants me to let her in, but I'm still wearing my pajamas, so I'm not going to get up and go open the door.
The wonders of meeting on Zoom. It's so great. Yes. Wow. Well, I just want to thank you, Danielle and Betty, for this call today, and also for all that you do, and for all the times I've been there in Casa Taos and received that love and nurturing and magic that's there. I'm so grateful. Can't wait till the next time I'll go back. I hope it's soon. And yeah, I invite everybody. I put Danielle and Betty's contact info in the chat once again here. So hope that you all will reach out to them if you'd like to start a conversation about having your own group there or visiting Casa Taos in any way that's right for you. And I know you'll love it. I know you'll love talking to them. So enjoy. And yeah,
Thank
hope everybody has a beautiful rest of the weekend. So much love to you all. I'll see you again soon. And bye for now. Mwah.
you. Bye-bye.
Love it.
Thanks.